Welcome everybody officially to the 16th mystery chocolate tasting. Thank you so much for joining. Hi Dom. So if you haven't worked out, there is a chat at the bottom, and I would love it if you would share your thoughts on the chocolates and ask any questions. So you can ask questions about the chocolates as we're tasting them, and you can ask questions for Felicity and Mikkel, the chocolate maker, and we may answer them as we go, or we might answer them at the end. So the plan for this evening is that we will get to the tasting the chocolates very quickly, and we'll taste our way through all 6, and then we will open the floor up to questions for Felicity and for Mikkel. And I will be here till after 9, so if you have more questions for me. I don't know if the other 2 have to rush off, but we will make sure we get through all of the chocolates before 9, so you have all your questions answered about those specifically. Any questions so far? What I would love to see when it comes to the chocolates, if you use the emojis to share your thoughts, like your reactions to them, and also let me first explain what the items I just mentioned that might be useful are, and then I will properly introduce Felicity and Mikkel. But can I first see how many of you have been to one of the mystery tastings before? You can use the emoji wave or actually wave. Oh, lots of waving. Hi, thanks. Thanks for coming back. And who's here for the first time?
Me.
Okay, a couple. Right, so it's definitely worth me explaining. Cool. So the tasting wheel, I'll talk through first. So this is designed for tasting plain dark chocolate. So around the outside, you'll see some of the 400 plus flavors that you can find naturally in plain dark chocolate. They are not all positive flavors, although I guess that depends on your opinion. Maybe you like cardboard in your chocolate. But the way you would use this if you're tasting plain dark chocolate is to start in the center, and that's a broad category. So you might be able to just define that your chocolate tastes kind of roasted or floral or fruity, and then look to the next level to see if you can narrow it down any further. And then finally, you might decide that it tastes like dried mango and beer, because it can come from more than one quadrant, not their quadrants, more than one segment at a time. And the really phenomenal chocolates will start with one flavor and then move to another and then finish in another flavor. So I was restricted by just the readability around the outside of how many different flavors I could fit in there. But this is particularly useful for filled chocolates, because it will help if you're trying to figure out what it is that you think you can taste. If you just read your way all around the outside of the circle, you might go, yes, that's it. So I encourage you to use that for this, right? Or start in the center and work your way out as well. If you know that it's a fruit, then just perhaps look at that segment. I will tell you that not all of the things that are in the ingredients tonight are around this. So there's your tip, your first clue. The other thing to use for this evening is the sheet of paper. Hi, people who are just joining. Sorry about the waiting room. If anyone wants to just nudge me every now and again to check that there's people in the waiting room, please do. So the reason I have the sheet of paper for you to write some notes because what I would encourage you to do, if you can resist, is to not finish each chocolate while we're talking about it. Save some till we finish tasting all of them, and then try some of them again. Totally understand if you can't do that. Chocolates are very hard to resist, but I would encourage it, because everything that you taste in chocolate affects the next thing that you taste in all food. And so it might be the case that you can taste something more clearly if you try it after something else. And this is particularly noticeable in chocolate. We find that after you've tasted 3 or 4 chocolates, then you get much better identifying flavors. I'm sure it's true for other flavors as well, but I would encourage you to try that. And in fact, if you're coming on another tasting, eat some chocolate before you join. If you've got some other chocolate nearby, have some of that before we start tasting, and you'll probably be even better at tasting. So my philosophy is always just eat more chocolate, but in this case, don't eat it all at once. Right. Any questions? Well, now I would love to introduce you to our special guest. So I'm delighted to have our special guest for this evening, be Felicity Cloake, award-winning food writer. You might know her as the author of the Perfect column in The Guardian, which has been going since 2009 online, and I think in print now for 11 years. It's phenomenal. I've bought Felicity's book, Perfect, for many people because it is just the level of attention to detail that goes into trying many of the best cookbook writers' versions of different recipes and then amalgamating them into the perfect one. It's very, very cool. So yeah, if you don't know her for that, you might also know her because she recently, in 2019, her latest book is One More Croissant for the Road. She cycled around France in 6 weeks and then wrote about it. And Felicity's writing is beautiful, which is why she has won the awards for her food writing several times. And she also writes for New Statesman and every food magazine that you've ever heard of, and many other places as well. Welcome, Felicity.
I think it's a great honour to be here. I didn't realise that I was going to have my palate tested live in front of an audience, so I'm quite nervous, actually, I'm able to admit it.
Yeah, I will say right now, for everybody here, that you'll realise how difficult this is to taste chocolate. So even people who, you know, say that this is what they do as a living, it's really hard. So the particular reason for this is because if you go back to my little tasting wheel here, all of these flavors can show up naturally in chocolate, which means that if you when you're tasting, you might actually be tasting some of the things that come from here as well. That's my theory. And also, as you know, as a recipe writer, when you cook things and mix them with other things, they often taste like quite different. So there's so many versions of what strawberry tastes like. And so when you mix it with something else, it is really hard. So there is no shame in not getting it right.
That, please.
Now I'm going to introduce you to our chocolate maker. So I don't always reveal who the chocolatier or the chocolate maker is in these mystery tastings, but because it was particularly exciting because these chocolates came all the way from Denmark, not Norway, as I put in my email. Sorry, Mikkel. Mikkel Friis Holm. I apologize if I've butchered your name. Welcome and thanks for joining.
Thanks. How are you doing? Wow. Yeah, I have problems with my audio here, so it might be me making a problem.
Okay, well, I'll mute you when you're not talking, perhaps. Maybe if you just mute, or maybe you can mute yourself when you're not actually speaking. But for those of you who don't know Mikkel, he is the founder of Friis Holm, his eponymous chocolate company, which he started in 2007. So he's really part of the old guard of chocolate making, which is the process of making chocolates from the bean to the bar. And so only recently has he started doing the process from bean to bonbons. So his chocolatier, is Cindy joining or not?
No, she won't be joining us. It'll be me.
Okay, just that's okay. So Mikkel was a chef, and when he was working in San Francisco, he was in the 90s. He ended up getting in touch with John Scharfenberger, who his company was eventually bought by Nestle, or Hershey's, one of the two. Hershey's, yeah. But he was really, really, really at the forefront of bean to bar craft chocolate making. And at that time, there were probably fewer than 10 in the whole world making chocolate on a small scale.
4 or 5.
Yeah,
new ones.
Really, really small. And so through his connections with Scharfenberger, Mikkel went to Nicaragua for a project that was happening there, and then ended up getting connected through a development project with the Danish government. And initially, Mikkel's bars were made by Bonnat in France, but since 2014, they have been made in Denmark, and they are just as good as they were right from the beginning. I have loved every bar that Mikkel has made, so I'm very excited to be sharing these with you tonight. And they've also won many, many awards, many golds too, which are not that easy to win. Let's eat some chocolate. Okay, the first chocolate that we're going to taste is the bronze one. So I have a PowerPoint, which I will share so that way if you share my screen, so that way if you didn't hear what I said, you can look at the picture. I recommend, for those of you who've not been part of a tasting before, didn't suggest having a knife and a board is a good idea to cut them in half. So I will show you the picture of the half. It's okay, totally okay to bite them, but I usually recommend to cut it because that way you can smell the inside before you taste it. And most of what we experience as taste is actually, you know, our sense of smell. And so if you smell orthonasally outside of your head, so through your nose, then you will sometimes get slightly different aroma that will help you to identify flavors than once you start to taste it. When it comes to tasting, if you hold the food, the chocolate, in your mouth with your mouth closed and just kind of bite it a few times and then let it melt with your nose held as well, then you let go of your nose, I'm going to repeat this, and breathe out slowly, then you'll get a much more intense flavor. So it's a little bit like if you walk into the kitchen and you can smell there's a cake baking, but then when you open the oven, you get a massive hit of even more smells. And so if you take a tiny piece of the chocolate, so I would recommend probably trying a quarter of it, and then chew it a little bit, close your mouth, hold your nose, count to 4, let it go. You'll get much more. Okay, what's that question? Can you please show the numbers? Ooh. Okay. Numbers, the first one is the bronze one. Sorry, I'll go back to the actual picture where you can see the top of it. It's more helpful. If you don't have to hold your nose to taste this, you can just taste them. Any thoughts on the flavor so far? I'm going to stop sharing my screen just so that we can look at people's faces.
I'm sort of torn because the first thing that hit me when I smelt it, I thought of kirsch, like sort of cherry eau de vie, that sort of almondy cherry stone thing. And then when I had another bite, I kind of got some peppery, maybe some peppery notes, and I feel like they wouldn't be both in the same chocolate. So I'm probably wrong on both things, but they were the two things that sprang to mind.
I think this is where it gets particularly challenging with Mikkel's chocolate, because it is his chocolate is generally like gold or silver award winning, and those are the ones where you really get all of this variety of flavor. So I can totally smell those berry notes as well in the chocolate, but I can tell you there is no berries in the ganache, which is in the center. So this, for anyone who's new to chocolate, is a ganache filling, which is generally a mixture of chocolate cream and a little bit of butter. Sometimes you can make chocolate ganache with any other liquid, so water or alcohol and fruit juice, that kind of thing. But yes, you're closer when it comes to guessing the spiciness. So there's your clue, everybody.
Yeah, I think like long pepper or Sichuan peppercorns would be my guess on that.
I had Sichuan pepper for dinner. It was very good. Any more guesses? Pepper woody, gingerbread. Okay, so I had never heard of this ingredient as it is, so I had to like double check it. I thought that there'd been some language confusion when it was written on the box. So yeah, there's another clue for you all. It's not something you've probably got in your cupboard, at least not this particular version of it. So yeah, nobody's got it correct, but
it's not long pepper.
It's not long pepper, and it is not. I don't think I would have got it either. So we're starting with one that's hard for everybody. Would you like to do the reveal, Mikkel, of what this is?
Yeah, I can do that. It's a Japanese spice. Oh, I'm just a sec, but I need to not do the echo. I'm sorry about that, but my computer audio does not work, so I have a phone on.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Try to take it away from us. Well, this is really irritating. Wait a minute.
I think if you mute your computer, turn the sound down on your computer, it should be fine. I can reveal the flavor on the PowerPoint if you like.
Yeah, it's a cinnamon.
Yes.
But it's a Japanese leaf cinnamon.
Anyone familiar with this? Please share in the chat if you are. Yeah,
it is totally unfair.
I know. See, this is it. It makes you like, how can you no one can judge you for not knowing this.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Georgina Hayden was the special guest when Charlotte, who's actually on the call as a regular guest, sorry, Charlotte, and all of Charlotte's ingredients are foraged from the Scottish Highlands, and so there were so many things, like I'd never heard of any of them, to be honest. Maybe like spruce rang a bell.
The Nicoliso name is single varietal chocolate or cacao.
Yes. Do you want to tell us more about the chocolate? The actual like Nicoliso?
The Nicoliso is do you have a lot of echo from me?
A little bit. It's not as bad now.
A little bit. Okay. Anyway, the Nicoliso is one of 6 single varietal cacaos that I was part of developing in Nicaragua. And it has this very fruity red wine cherry kind of. This is really irritating, isn't it?
Kind of interesting. We had to hear it twice, so if we didn't hear it the first
time.
Well,
you know what I might want to do is I will turn off my computer and I'll go totally on the phone.
Okay.
Yeah, so see, that might work.
Well, I will tell people about the cinnamon leaf.
Yeah, do that.
I spent ages Googling it because I was like, when I looked for cinnamon, I just came up with like the Ceylon cinnamon and the Chinese cinnamon, because I'm sure some of you are aware there are different varieties of the cinnamon bark, but some of them are like wood and others are much more crumbly and more subtle and aromatic. But the cinnamon leaf apparently has aroma of both cinnamon and clove. So I kind of see that now that I've tasted it, but yeah, would not have known. It's also contains eugenol, which is good for gastrointestinal distress. Every day is a school day. And cinnamaldehyde, which is a natural pain reliever and anti-inflammatory. So you're all getting healthier. It's often also apparently, when combined with sweet orange oil, helps to combat depression and hopelessness. So yeah, just eat more of just this particular one. He also has it as, do you still sell it as a bar with the powder?
We become quite popular. It's very, I think it's very Christmassy, but the cinnamon is slightly less warm, more spicy than the cinnamon we're used to, but it doesn't have the coumarin, which is in normal cinnamon and the cashew cinnamon. So people who are allergic to cinnamon can actually get the flavor through this leaf, because it has quite a little bit more peppery, as Felicity was saying. Is probably a good way to describe it. More peppery than normal cinnamon, but still a lot of cinnamon flavor.
Yeah, I definitely find it more peppery as well. So I totally see where you went with the long pepper notes there, because that's like long pepper is quite floral, which like I feel like you get from this rather than just a plain black pepper. This is so why I'm encouraging you to save some of this if you can, is when I judge for the International Chocolate Awards, before we do any judging, we taste at least 3 chocolates, because we found that when your very first chocolate, you don't get the subtleties of. So that's why I said, start eating some chocolate before you join the call next time. But so yeah, save some and then see if you try it later, if you pick up more of the flavor notes that we were talking about. Okay, next chocolate is the pink one. If you are sharing this, beware, it's slightly liquid. So if you cut it, then kind of just turn it onto its end, if that makes sense. So yeah, there's your warning. It's not super liquid, but a little bit. I'll put it on the screen, so if anybody didn't hear me, you can see which one I'm talking about. It's the pink one. And the picture of the Nicoliso, the one we just tried. So the top picture is the cinnamon leaf, and then that's the bottom one is the cinnamon leaf powder, which is how, is that how you get it, Mikkel, or do you get an extract?
I get it as a powder directly from the farmers of some farmers in southern Japan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so when you make it into a bar, you put it into the grinder so that it gets
I get it ground already, because it's a leaf. So it's not really, I don't get it as a leaf, if that's what you mean. I get it as a finished powder. and I'll put it in the mold before molding the chocolate in. So it'll be on top of the bar when we make a bar.
That makes sense. I haven't tried that one yet. The sorry, this is the one we're tasting now. And so when you cut it, it looks like this. I'll go back to the other picture just so you see. So that's interesting about sprinkled on top. I'd love to try that. So any thoughts on the flavor Turkish Delight from them?
There's a lot of rose to it, but there's some acidity there. I don't know if that's just, you know, something to round out the flavor, or whether there's another intended flavor. But there's rose, there's floral, but there's sort of acidity as well.
Yes, I did wonder about whether it was wise to use this one, have this one so early on, because it's you're thinking you chose badly, don't you, Mikkel?
No, I don't know. It's quite specific flavor.
Yeah, it's quite an intense flavor, but I thought that because not everybody likes floral notes, I didn't want to finish with it, and I felt like that was the alternative. It's I mean, not everybody likes any flavor, but the kind of floral notes can be quite divisive.
When we did that, I'm not going to say what it is, but when we did this, we were making it for our own sake, and kind of thinking that this would either be something that people really liked, or that they were not so much into. So
on the chocolate tours, from the very beginning, back in 2005, we've started visiting Chabanelli Walker and have done all along. And everybody on the tour tastes unless they flat out refuse, they taste the rose and the violet creams. And in the first few years, maybe 1 out of every 10 people would really like it. And everybody else would be just like, my grandmother's perfume. And then I watched in like the last 15 years how that changed, where 1 or 2 people wouldn't like it and everybody else would be like, oh, cool, rose, violet. It just shows how much the food world has changed in the past decade or so. Okay, so you've got some really interesting guesses here. Oh, it's changing, yes. I'm finding it hard to read the chat on here. Normally don't like floral, but love this. Okay, oh, these are great guesses. A few of you have got it or close to it. So lychee, rose, Turkish Delight, very floral, sharper sweetness. Yes, Felicity also noticed that. Citrusy, lychee, rose, violet, lavender, geranium, rose. That was a train. Cherry, rose, lavender, gorgeous. It went everywhere. I totally agree. Cherry blossom, geranium. Okay, so rose with yuzu, geranium, lychee, violet. Okay, oh, mine's Ispahan. Yes, if you haven't had Pierre Hermé's Ispahan pastry, which is rose, lychee, and raspberry, it's incredible. So yes, the reveal, it is rose geranium, and geranium and lemon. I got that right, yes?
Lemon geranium.
Lemon geranium, not lemon.
Yeah, extract from 2 different geraniums.
Okay, I got it wrong. Sorry.
No, go.
That's even cooler. So it's lemon geranium and rose geranium and not regular geranium.
No, I mean geranium, you can have all kinds of geranium. Some have mint flavor or a smell, some have the rose. This is called Rose of Avatar, this geranium, and you have a lemon geranium. We have several varieties over this, which is really kind of interesting, old-fashioned plant in a way. And a side note, Cindy, who creates the pieces, she really does not like rose water or rose as such, but the geranium she really loves. So it's kind of, it has a different rose finish. And it's made with a pure extract we get from a good friend who makes a very famous gin called geranium gin. This is the same extract he uses for his gin, which I think also won the World Championship, as well as this piece. What
did it win, Mikkel?
It won for the best filled cream-filled chocolates. Has kind of a strange name in the awards, but it's I think the best cream.
This was the International Chocolate Awards, right?
National chocolate wars, yes.
Yeah. So I judged those from home last year, and so I tasted this for the first time there, not knowing that it was yours. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that, but I gave it like the highest marks. I was just like, this is incredible. Like, obviously it makes a big difference when chocolatiers use chocolate of your quality. And then the flavors. But when you sent it to me, I thought that the description said rose, lemon, and geranium. And that's what I thought it was tasting. Like, I'm still astounded now to know that the lemon flavor is coming from lemon geranium rather than
it is. We use a little bit of citric acid, but that's just a tiny bit to enhance some flavors. Yeah.
I didn't even know that rose geranium was a thing for.
And it grows right outside our factory as well. So it's where we get it from.
Oh, wow. That's so cool. So I did some more Googling because, it's always fun to learn. And basically rose geranium is a geranium that smells of rose. And it is apparently good for nerve pain and also good for depression. You're all going to be like just buzzing for the rest of the week now. And if you apply rose geranium oil topically, it will tighten your skin. It's a good astringent, and it will also stop nerve pain. So if you ever get shingles, seek it out. It's anti-inflammatory and antiseptic. And so it's therefore good for acne, eczema, dermatitis, and psoriasis. And it is also repels ticks. And there's more. For relaxation, optimism, emotional stability. And you can make a tea from the dried or fresh leaves. So time to plant some rose geranium in the garden, I think. Would it be possible to include the botanical names? So I know it's from the Pelargonium family. I will send it to you in the email. So for those of you who don't know, I will send the list of all of the chocolates, so you don't need to write them down if you don't want to. And yes, Katie, I will look for the botanical names for you and check them with Mikkel before I send them to you, perhaps. So yeah, cool, huh? So if you didn't already get some hot water to cleanse your palate, that would be a good time to just run and grab that. Cold water will also work, or tea, but hot water I find is much better than cold water because chocolate melts at body temperature. So if you drink cold water, it just solidifies anything that's in your mouth. Well, not, solidifies, but it doesn't help it wash away in the way that water that's hotter than body temperature will. So my PowerPoint is incorrect because I didn't realize the geranium thing, but oh well. The next chocolate that we're going to taste, I did hope would kind of be a good foil in that it should make you forget this chocolate quite quickly. Not that I want to forget it, but I'll share my screen so that you can see. I don't think, I have been keeping an eye on the waiting room, so I don't think anyone's trying to get in. I love those layers. Oh yeah, so I thought it was geranium, lemon, and rose geranium. So oops, rose. So there's a picture of a geranium. I don't know what type that one is, but the bottom one is a rose geranium, according to the internet. And next chocolate is the silver one. The silver one. I've got rose geranium on my knife now. Remembering to smell your chocolate. If you don't smell your chocolate before you put it in your mouth, you won't be able to smell it like afterwards. More crazy signs that I can't explain. Yeah, I think we probably all got that picture now. So go back to looking at faces. Oh, it appears to have frozen. Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you that, Mikkel. What are the layers in that chocolate? Is it supposed to be 2-layered?
The cream field. That's how it works. Normally, the sugars are a little bit more heavy, so they will fall to the bottom, and the liquid part will go a little bit to the top. It's what happens.
Yeah, that I was thinking, because that's, if any of you didn't know, I found this out years ago when I used to run a chocolate tour in Brighton as well. And so we visited Audrey's, who make all of Fortnum and Mason's traditional English chocolates. Well, they did, I think they still do. And they make thousands and thousands of the cherry liqueur chocolates for Christmas. So they take the whole cherries, they're not the sweet ones, they taste pretty awful actually, and they put them in barrels under the road. They've got like a basement under the road of the alcohol, and then after they've been soaked for ages, they wrap them in fondant, and then they double dip the fondant in chocolate so that it's fully covered with a nice thick casing, and then it's stored, and all of the liquid from the cherry mixes with the fondant, and that's how you get that syrupiness, which I thought was pretty cool. So it's the same kind of thing, that the migration of the sugars. Okay, so let me read some of these notes. So we have licorice, caramel toffee, subtle caramel, brown butter, burnt caramel.
It makes very good sense what's been written. So.
Yeah, I feel like this, some of these chocolates, it's like a mix of things you'd never guess and things that feel like, is this a trick question? I'm looking for the texture now. Can't help but eat along with you. Cashew caramel. It's a good guess. Cashew caramel tends to have that slight powderiness to it. I didn't notice that until someone pointed out. It's funny when you start really focusing on chocolate, how it changes your taste of it, because you start like looking for things. Felicity, what do you think?
I think it's delicious, obviously.
The most important thing.
I think someone on the comment said creme fraiche, like a Breton salted caramel type thing, and that it does have that really full voluptuous dairy note for me. Like it's almost as strong as the sugar, but there's also a nuttiness which could be like a, just caramelization, and maybe a brown butter, or could be, now someone said cashew, I'm thinking, is it an actual nuttiness? So yeah, I'm intrigued to find out what this is. It's lovely.
It reminds me a little bit of the brown cheese that you get. I forget which country. The one? No. Okay. It's like a caramelly.
I like.
Yes, I love it. Okay, not just like the fact that it's got that kind of, like someone says, like almost cheesy note to it. It's got like the strong dairy, but yeah, I don't consume a lot of dairy anymore, so I really notice it when it's in things. So this is a caramel. Perhaps Mikkel would like to enlighten us as to how it's made.
Well, we use our Ohio milk chocolate, which is very dairy, very milky, with some honey notes in the chocolate. But the caramel inside is basically a butterscotch with a little bit of muscovado sugar in it, which will explain if someone had a slight licorice note or something like that. We use Danish butter as well as a little bit of cream, and Danish butter is also a cultured butter. So we kind of let it sour a little bit before we make the butter. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the Danish salted butter we use. So it's a salt caramel would be the straight name for it. In Denmark, we would make up all these I think notes in that way, because this is how dairy usually works for us.
Yeah, I think that's really fascinating. So for judging the awards, we judge both Academy and International Chocolate Awards. We get entrants from all over the world, and the dairy is quite obvious when you're tasting filled chocolates, and especially in milk bars, how varied dairy is from country to country. So when I used to design McFlurries for McDonald's, just gonna throw that in there. I was told by somebody from Cadbury's that the reason that twirl and flake taste so different is because the milk for flake is from Ireland, and for twirl is from Bourneville, near Bourneville, and that's like the dairy notes make a difference, which makes sense when you think about cheese, which is like so many cheeses are just like that. Gruyere talk about the lavender that the cows eat and how that affects the cheese. So that cultured note is, I think, what I was getting at when I was talking about the brown cheese. It's that slightly, yeah, cultured is a better word.
When I had to select the milk powder to use for, and we don't use crumb as you would use traditionally in England or the US for your milk chocolates. I'm more continental. That way, I like the milk powder, which was Nestlé's original invention. But I've tasted probably 30, 35 different milk powders over the years, and I've had them in all sizes and tastes. Some were, you definitely just tasted all the dung and the barn right there in the middle, or they could be totally like a caramel, or very creamy, or sour, or even bad milk sour. Also, I mean, it's not just it's not a staple. It's an ingredient like you have to choose as anything else.
That's really interesting. It made sense that you'd have good and bad, but I didn't really think about all the subtleties that might come from different milk powders like that. What percentage of cocoa is the milk chocolate?
It's a 50%.
50. Yeah, that makes sense.
And the cacao is Nicaraguan or organic cacao. And the milk is Danish, Northern Jutland milk, organic milk. And it's cane sugar, and then inside the caramel we have a little bit of cream from the same dairy and a little bit of muscovado sugar as well.
Nice.
Is that why Hershey's has that off milk flavor?
Yeah, it's cheese. It's basically when you make the crumb for making a traditional. This was the original story of this is quite fun, because Nestlé invented the milk powder process. And he invented the milk chocolate. We have to credit him for that. And he basically made a huge evil international empire out of milk chocolate. But anyway, he invented it, and then Cadbury and Hershey's was like, that's really cool. We want to make that too. And can we get the recipe for the milk powder? And Nestlé was like, no ways. That's mine. Too bad, suckers. So they started, okay, how can we evaporate the moisture out of milk so we can put it inside chocolate? And then they started to cook it, and when you heat milk you will also sour it, so you get that cheese flavor, which is how, especially in the US and mostly also the UK, is how you now today prefer your milk chocolate, because this is how you're brought up. That's your normal. Whereas the continental ones, like me, we get the milk powder, which is a different process, and we don't get that sourness in the milk.
So you think, because Hershey's is the only one that I've ever picked up, has that kind of baby sick type taste,
sick, a good word for it. Yeah.
I imagined you had to be brought up on it probably to enjoy it, but I've never tasted it I've never detected it in things like Cadbury's. But you
I think Cadbury's also do it, as far as I know.
So they both. So the Cadbury's, because the Cadbury's cooking,
I might be wrong,
kicks off the Maillard reaction. So our chocolate, like the dairy milk, is really has that caramel note that you don't get in the same from Swiss or a lot of the continental chocolate. My understanding of the Hershey's story is that when Milton Hershey was originally a caramel maker, and when he wanted to copy the Europeans in making a milk chocolate, the first batch of milk that he ordered went sour en route. And so rather than wasting it, because sour milk was still used, buttermilk kind of, he used that milk, and people bought it, and then he was like, okay, I better do it again. And so from then on, all the milk was soured. And so these days they add butyric acid to it, which is what you find in Parmesan and Baby Sick. Wow. And it's done intentionally, because it just became a thing of habit. So he was like, well, people like it this way, so I don't want to mess with the recipe. So I like that legend. It might not be true, but
I think all the stories, the one I told and the one you just told, there is some truth to them all, but they might be exaggerated a little bit, I think. So, but anyway,
Matt knows me in April writing Baby Sick into the margins with their color wheel. I've included some things here, like I said, that are not positive in we would consider them defects, things like smoke and ash, but some people do like those flavor notes in chocolate. Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to write vomit on there anywhere. It's yeah, sorry, we're talking about chocolate and here we are talking about all sorts of horrible things. Okay, the next chocolate we're going to taste is the white one, so that should be nice and easy to find. You can identify it. Oh yeah, I'm assuming you had to put Wilf in another room, Felicity.
No, he's actually see, he's just heard his name and woken up. He's actually
sorry.
He's now staring at me accusingly. No, he's here, but he doesn't like chocolate anyway, luckily, as he be good for him. He's a dog, just for anyone who doesn't know.
Clarify.
He's not jealous.
That's lucky. And so there's the one we just had, and this is the next one. So I'll show the inside, seeing as that'd be obvious. Ooh, it's vibrant. Every time I run a tasting, I always forget to do something. This time I forgot to introduce myself, but I think you probably all know me. And I've shared enough information about me throughout this now. So, okay, boysenberry, blackcurrant, blueberry, blackcurrant. 2 votes of blackcurrant.
I think red currant. More stalky. I did think blackcurrant, but it's a bit stalky. I don't know if I'm overthinking it. Some sort of currant.
I think I know why you're thinking that. Chuckleberry. I want a chuckleberry. Are they chuckleberry is a hybrid of blueberries and I don't know. Anyone know? Meredith? What's a chuckleberry? No pressure. Prune and plum.
Okay.
Cassis. Cassis and blackcurrant the same thing, just the French word. Yeah. I think of cassis as more as the liqueur that you put in champagne, because that's where I first came across it. And blackcurrant is Ribena. And then latterly, actually, eating blackcurrants. I never ate blackcurrant until I moved back to the UK. I only ever drank Ribena. Cherry and blackberry.
Interesting fact, for a long time, they weren't allowed to grow blackcurrants in the States.
Really?
Yeah. There was some sort of agricultural import ban in the early 20th century, which means that even though it's now allowed, it just never took off as a crop.
Wow.
That's my fascinating fact for the evening.
That's a fun fact.
Is that just the US or is it Canada as well?
I don't know about Canada, but it's definitely.
We've got some North Americans on the call. I'm not sure if they all managed to make the call. I know some of them have. Be interested to know if you know of blackcurrants. How available they are in the US. Okay, so the majority of you are correct. Is that right, Mikkel? It's blackcurrant.
It is. It's a blackcurrant, and it's a ganache, but we have put so much blackcurrant in, so it's like almost a cross between a ganache and a puree.
Yeah.
And we think it goes quite nice against my white chocolate. My white chocolate is made from a natural cocoa butter, which means it has a lot more flavor. It's become quite popular inside the chocolate factory, in the sense that we always take it as fun thing when people come in and can I nibble a little piece, and they go directly for this one because it's just very pleasing,
very nibbleable.
And there's a lot of blackcurrant in, so it's almost a puree, but it is technically a ganache inside the white chocolate. So. And
is it white chocolate or just cocoa butter?
It's a white chocolate and blackcurrant ganache.
Yeah, so if you try just it is like, because it almost comes out of the shell as a jelly, which is pretty cool. I like how you've kind of tempered it, not in the chocolate tempering sense, but sort of the acidity by making it into a ganache. If you taste the shell separately from the filling, I feel like potentially some of the stalkiness actually comes from that the undeodorized notes that you get from the white chocolate, because most of us will only have tasted white chocolate that's been deodorized, so filtered, and it loses a lot of the kind of chocolate notes, I think.
Yeah, a deodorized cocoa butter will make with a white chocolate that's basically more consistency than a flavor. which is basically also what deodorizing does. It removes flavor, so you have a consistency which you can add to anything without adding any flavor. But that would be detrimental to how I like to do my chocolates. There is a flavor in the ingredient we use, and that's also, I mean, just to put it over into the filled chocolates that we're tasting tonight is that chocolate has, coming from me being a chocolate maker, it's not the filling alone, it's the filling and the chocolate together. So we might have thicker shells, but we like it that way because the chocolate is an integral part of how we also see the praline and not the filled chocolate as a finished product.
Yes, I will mention that actually. But first, I'm going to just share what Dom put in the chat in case anyone missed it. That the reason that blackcurrant wasn't allowed was because it carried a fungus that killed pine trees. Not learning. So Mikkel was talking about the thickness of the shell. So when we judge filled chocolates, part of what we're looking at is technique. Obviously, flavor, taste, texture is the most important. But if a chocolatier has an uneven shell, or there's lots of air bubbles, or if it's overly thick, then there'll often be it will make it harder for it to get a high mark. I think thick shells are quite necessary when you've got quite liquid fillings. And it's especially a problem if you've got a thick shell and you're not using very good chocolate. And if it's
to make a thin shell, you also need to use a lot of cocoa butter in your chocolate, which will actually dilute the flavor of the chocolate quite a lot. But I do understand that this is the old way of thinking. A filled chocolate is the thin shell, and the filling has to fill more. Whereas I think this, for us, it's different.
I certainly doesn't bother me in your chocolates. I do like chocolates with, I think sometimes there's a place for thin shelled chocolates, but I feel like yours are not excessively thick, like they're the kind of right amount of thickness to hold in the fillings without, and your fillings are flavorful enough to be able to carry the thicker shell. Okay, got 2 more chocolates to go, and I'm getting close to 9 o'clock. Sorry, guys. So you should have a yellowy gold one and a blue one left. We're going to have the yellow gold one next. I agree with Sarah. The Mikkel's chocolate is so good. I'm very happy to have lots of it. Blackcurrant. And then just in case anyone missed it, we're trying the yellow one now. Gold, yellow. It looks yellow on the screen in some lights.
Almonds?
Okay. Let me just read them. Fig and marzipan, 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 marzipan. Yes, but there's more. So yes, it is an almond marzipan. We'll see.
But it's not very, it's very almondy as opposed to very marzipan-y, which is, I know, a stupid thing to say because marzipan's made from ground almonds, but it's not emphatically almonds and marzipan are obviously different flavors, and this is more of the almond flavor for me, which is nice.
I agree. It doesn't have the kind of almond extract note yet. That's I'm not sure what word I'm thinking of. Coffee. That's interesting. I can kind of taste coffee too. Christmas mince pie. So antiseptic. I think almond. That's the flavor. That's the thing I was thinking of with marzipan. Sometimes that almond extract can come across like medicinal almost. Ginger. This is presumably a homemade marzipan, Mikkel.
We don't make the marzipan ourselves. It's something we discussed it, but we would need to build another factory to be able to make the quality we wanted to do. So it's not just, I mean, we could take almonds, we could run in and blitz them or do something with them, but a real marzipan to cook it and get the right elasticity and texture in the marzipan is a science in its own. This is marzipan from Lübeck, which is northern Germany and the world center of marzipan in this Baltic sea town. It's just as you have the northern Provence, you have all the what you call French nougat, white nougat things, factories. You have the marzipan factories in Lübeck. So it's yeah, and this is, you know, marzipan. It's a northern European thing. It's definitely a Danish thing. It's definitely a northern German thing. We like our marzipan, and we do like it when it has some of that more bitter almond, just a little bit hint of that bitter almond thing that gives it more of a, you know, broken cherry stone kind of poison thing in it. And here we have the Christmas cake analogy was kind of fitting because there is port wine and there is plum inside as well. So,
yeah, it's lovely. I didn't notice the plums as much, especially when I tasted it, but I like it. I get the alcohol.
I just got a tiny bit of plum when I looked into it. Teeny tiny. Delicious.
Oh yeah, I can see the little dots. Cool. So with our last chocolate, can I can you do a screenshot for me? I can't. No, I don't know how to do this on the new computer. I switched to a Mac. I think it was a good idea, but I'm very confused by it still. So can you all hold your chocolate up and smile? Okay. Did you get it? Did you get both screens? Lots of people, no pressure, everybody. Keep smiling. Thank you. Okay, thanks, guys. So the last one is the blue one, obviously. I don't need to share my screen for this, so it's the one you got left. Oh yeah, again, liquidy. Sorry, should have warned you before you cut it if you were sharing. A little bit liquidy. Any thoughts? Ooh, orange blossom, sorry. Orange blossom, yuzu, sherbet, citrusy.
Very sherbety, isn't it?
What's that liqueur flavor? Pear, fizzy, lemon. Citrus. Not citrus. But I can see why you think that. I really like this one.
Susan
I like
is
them
close.
all. Pardon?
Susan is close.
Yeah. There's some. Oh, I meant to ask what the in the marzipan, which chocolate was in the couverture and the coating?
The marzipan is our Ladalia 60.
Ladalia.
Yeah.
Nice.
Which is a central northern Nicaraguan blend we get from 10 slightly larger farmers. Actually, at the beginning, we were really discussing with them because they were big. We usually deal with a lot of small farmers in Nicaragua, and they're all beautiful to work with. And if we ask them to do something, they're like, yep, you pay really good money. We will do what you ask. And the Dahlia blend is 10 larger farmers, and they're like, nah, you can get it the way we usually do it, or we don't want to do anything. So we had some discussions in the beginning. So it's always a pleasure to work with someone, but the cacao is really great. So.
And these are the guys who don't turn their cocoa beans in fermentation, is that right?
No, these guys don't sort the beans into different varietals that they plant. So I did call them lazy on the bar, which I actually got into a little bit of problems with them in the beginning, because I felt, for me, I was working with single varietals, and one of the big problems in cacao is that the farmers are not getting paid enough. But if the farmers, they need to get more money, but they should not just get more money because we feel sorry for them. Of course, there is some fairness that should be a part of it too, but the farmer should get more for having a better product that has specific flavor and notes and stuff like this. So as long as the farmers have all these mixed plantations where the cacao output and the flavor of the cacao that comes out of the same plantation changes every week, then they will never have a consistent product worth more money. So making this blend, this is my first blend, the La Dahlia. I wanted to emphasize that you could have a great cacao from a blend if you could work consistently with fermentation and stuff. But it's also something that I wanted to focus on. It's a blend. It's a mix of stuff that grows in a specific area, and it's not as specific as the single varietals I do. And these 10 like larger, obnoxious farmers, which they were. They were kind of like, nah, that's more work for us. We don't. No, you can have it as we do it. Otherwise, we don't want to do business. And they're like, yeah, that's cool, but I will take my revenge. And actually, I got into a little bit of problems with them in the sense that a competitor started saying, hey, he called you stupid. And the cacao project in Nicaragua, I was like, oh, come on, Mikkel, you were a fool. Why did you do this? But then this chocolate and the 7% variety went with the first Danish astronaut to the space station, and the Nicaraguan papers picked up on this, so it went total headlines in Nicaragua: Nicaraguan cacao in space, and the farmers have not had an issue since then. So it's kind of fine.
That's so cool. So you're all eating chocolate that went to space. I mean,
yeah,
chocolate,
but again, it's sometimes I use provocation in how I have a bad fermentation chocolate, which is one of my favorites. Sometimes you need to put focus on something that will make people stop and say, what's this about? And then you have the intention, and then you can actually tell a story about what's happening in real life.
Yes. And good PR,
anyway,
right?
So I review the chocolate.
Yes, I was going to say, I just wanted to share the crushed up love heart sweets. I like that. I like that analogy. Maraschino, the cherry. Yes. So yes, do you want to reveal, Mikkel?
It's a slow gin cream. So there's the tartness. There is some gin, but the tartness. It's very difficult to make a sweet piece of chocolate that also has that tartness of the sloe berry inside. A bitter chocolate as well. So it's a balance. I think this has gone out on the slightly sweeter side, but it's very pleasing. I really enjoy it. It's one of my go-to pieces when I go into and steal a piece when nobody's looking. I really like this one.
This is my favorite from the box, although I mean I happily eat any of them. So someone's asking how you buy Mikkel's chocolate. This is why you had to sign up for the tasting. Well done, because Brexit makes it difficult, especially the filled chocolates. You just ate half of the white bar. Smart. I think you can get Mikkel's bars from Cocoa Runners, though. Is there anywhere else in the UK or Spain or US?
We have what they called chocolate something in Spain that has a web shop with our chocolates. We do send ourselves from our web shop to all of Europe, but it might be difficult with Brexit and customs now. Club del Chocolate, that's right. Victoria, I just got an order from her today anyway, so she will have a full almost a full selection to choose from next week, I think. We do sell to quite a few web shops around Europe.
Yeah. For a second I thought, Susan, that you meant that your bar didn't arrive in the post. I'm like, I definitely packed it, but yes, you finished it. I don't blame you. I've still got a couple because they didn't all get sold, but I think I'm going to take them off the website. But you know, they might get added to December's order if you'd like to join December's tasting on the 7th. At this stage, I think I'm just going to do December the 7th, the January, I think it's the 13th, and then one in February as well. January's is a vegan tasting with Karen Waller, who's also made lots of award-winning chocolates when she used to work for Rococo, and she has her own shop in York. She's going to make some special chocolates that she doesn't sell in her shop. And December is going to be back to a mixed box, which is because the chocolatier pulled out. So it was going to be Harrods, but we're going to do a special tasting with them at some point next year. So we're going to go back to a mixed box for the 7th of December, which will include a chocolate from my friend Tim Fisher, who doesn't sell chocolates to the public. He's writing a book about chocolate, and so he's going to make some specially for the tasting. So if you want to taste his chocolates, that's your only chance. How's that for a sales pitch? What were your favorites, everybody? Favorites? Felicity, which was your favorite?
I mean, I really enjoyed all of them, which is unusual because I'm not generally a massive fan of fruit flavored chocolates that aren't sort of orange, basically, because I find like the chocolate is such an intense flavor, and then sort of sour fruits are such an intense flavor. I find it too much, whereas I really enjoyed that blackcurrant one. But I think my favorite was probably the geranium. I just thought that was so floral but interesting, and I love floral chocolates anyway, but that just had an extra something. But I loved the chocolate on the, I'm annoyed that I ate all of the sloe gin one when I was trying to work out what it was before finding out, but I loved the chocolate on that as well. The bitterness of that chocolate was just delicious. So yeah.
What is the chocolate on the sloe gin? Because the Dahlia is on the marzipan, right?
Yeah, we use, let me think, the sloe gin is, I should have Cindy here, but I think it's the Yohe, or it might be the La Dahlia. I'm not sure actually.
Okay. I could taste them, see if it
Yeah.
tastes the same. I love that. Look, I think every single one of the 6 has come up as somebody's favorite. That's really
good.
cool. It's just
Great.
what happens on the tours and tastings. Like, it's nice to and fascinating how these favorites are different. I appreciate that it's past 9 o'clock. I don't know if Felicity and do you mind hanging around for a few more minutes to?
Yeah, I do have to take the dog out at some point, but I've definitely got a few minutes.
Okay.
Got an active audience, so.
It's yeah, let us know if I don't want you to have to clean up any accidents, so just say goodbye when you need to. But I don't know if anyone had any questions. I've got questions to both of them, so I might start, but if you want to ask either Felicity or Mikkel any questions, just pop them into the chat, or if you'd like to come off mute, just raise your hand and I'll call on you and you can ask a question from your speaking. But as I mentioned to all of you, Felicity writes the perfect column, and so I was curious as to if she had a favorite chocolate recipe. So you do have a recipe from Felicity in the pack, so I don't know if anyone's had a chance to make it, but tag her if you do, tag me too. And but was there any chocolate recipe that like surprised you when you were doing testing? Because I'm guessing you've done quite a few chocolate recipes in 11 years of.
Yeah, I hate working with chocolate. I feel like it's such a different, it's like bread making. Chocolate is such a different skill from cooking and baking and sort of cake making and things. And it's just when you're cooking with it, you think you've cleared up, and then you'll see there's a massive smear of it somewhere and on your face and etc. So I love chocolate. I'm not particularly keen on working with it. I think that what's my favorite thing that I have done with it? I think probably I did some chocolate biscuits a couple of years ago, as in chocolate in, not chocolate chip cookies, but chocolate biscuits, and that sort of bitter, almost sort of Oreo-like, but nicer. And I found that a really interesting. It's not a biscuit that we get a lot in the UK, or didn't before everyone became obsessed with Oreos. And I just thought it's so delicious because it makes more of the bitterness of cocoa as opposed to the richness of cocoa butter like you get in a chocolate chip cookie. And I found that a really sort of interesting. Like
kind of like a sablé, I guess, not necessarily a shortbread, but like the French do the cocoa sablé, which is really
exactly. So that sort of thing, and very snappy, but very bitter sweet, as opposed to rich, and that was fun. And also red velvet cakes, getting there, working out about the whole thing with the legend about having the reaction between the cocoa and the baking powder creating that color, which is complete rubbish. But that was quite fun, working out how to make a chocolate cake bright red. The answer is
artificial coloring.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, insects. Nice. And then if you didn't know, Felicity's got a new book coming out next year, which is what she's working on. If you haven't read One More Croissant for the Road, the cycling around France adventure, she's just finished the escapades for the British version, which will be called Red Sauce, Brown Sauce. British Odyssey, Breakfast Odyssey, British Breakfast Odyssey.
British Breakfast Odyssey, yeah. So yeah, a journey around. It's not just Britain, but Britain is alliteratively pleasing, but it's the UK, so I also go to Northern Ireland and the Isle of Man. But yeah, just going around eating different breakfast classics, so that was fun.
That's very cool. Do you when you were doing the perfect, was there any one that had like, so I read in an interview that you normally would test somewhere between 5 and 10 recipes. Is that the maximum you ever did? 10?
Yeah, I tend not to do even as many. I usually try and stick to 5 for a particular dish, just because with 5 you can get a real variation on the different elements of the dish that matter. But sometimes if it's something quite quick, I will do more. I did Basque cheesecake recently because that's obviously been a big lockdown trend, and people kept sending me more and more recipes that I had to try, and because there are relatively few variables with a Basque cheesecake, I became really interested and made about 8, and it's really hard to get rid of 8 enormous cheesecakes. I tell you, it's just, that was a difficult week. I ate too much cheesecake.
And expensive too, right? The ingredients for that.
Yes, yeah, I actually cleared several. I tried to get cream cheese from Neil's Yard and various cheesemongers, and they just don't do it in bulk. So I cleared my local Waitrose app, that lovely Breton cream cheese, and then just ended up with loads and loads of Philadelphia. So
yeah.
if everyone wanted cream cheese in Islington last week, sorry, I bought it all.
Yeah, I think it was one of the recipes in Rav's baking course, and people were like, I just spent a fortune making cake. It's
Yeah,
like,
imagine making 8 of those, 9 in fact in the end.
ouch. I hope they reimburse you for ingredients as well as paying you for the writing. Probably not enough.
Well, yeah.
There's some questions from other people as well. I love that someone's husband, every time they cook, asked to look for Felicity's made that version.
Big responsibility.
It's sorry you had to share, Kirsten. That is the trouble with one box, especially when they're not able to be ordered online. I know a lot of the times people taste them here and then go and buy them straight away, but the bars as well are just as good, and there's licorice and other interesting flavors. The what's the one the miso soy one's really cool. I demolished that really quickly. The barber bar. Okay, I don't know if there's any questions I've missed for Felicity, because I'm conscious she might need to go.
That's a couple. I mean, the barber is one of the 6 varietals we developed, and it's a very mild but with a peppery finish. So we found a valley with this phenotype just growing a few hundred trees, and we took the genetic material from this and created this phenotype from it. It's very great and flavorful but mild chocolate with some black pepper at the finish. So I really like that one. It's super rare. I don't think anyone really uses it except for me. There is not that much cacao anyway. And I was asked about elderflower. We will do that. We have done an elderflower cream, and we really liked it, but it will be in our spring collection. we do 2 or 3 collections during the year, which will be the one you can get. So we kind of follow the year a little bit. And elderflower is a staple for me. My mother made elderflower syrup every year, and I actually, before the chocolate, I had this habit of making about 600 to 1,000 liters every year and sell it commercially, just because I felt it was fun. My mother's old recipe put on bottle. So we do elderflower.
You actually did that, or you thought about doing it?
I did it.
Wow. Are you still doing it?
I haven't had time with the chocolate factory and stuff, so it's kind of on the back burner. I do like 10 liters, 10 liters here back home every year, but that's about it. So.
Wow. And do you do tours of your factory?
We do tour of our factory, and it's one of the things that we have done when we moved to the new premises 2 years ago is that it's actually created as a big horseshoe around a hallway where you can with windows in, so you can look into the factory without actually entering. But we also do tours inside the factory and show what we do.
Who's up for a field trip? Field trip to Denmark. You're about an hour out of Copenhagen, is that right?
No, with public transport, 40 minutes in a car, so pretty accessible.
Cool. I'm just going to ask Felicity another question, seeing as she might have to go. And I would like to know what your go-to chocolate is. It's okay if it's cheap.
What's my go-to? I'm kind of a bit Catholic in my tastes. I like the thing that I've really got a weakness for, which is cheap and shameful, but so delicious. And I don't even know if you can get them in this country, but those Milka Dime Bar collaboration, like little, oh my God, they're so good. They're like crunchy. I love lots of texture in my chocolate and something to kind of cut the intensity of the chocolate. Not that Milka's a particularly intense chocolate. So I absolutely love that. Anything with sort of crunchy, salty nuttiness is amazing for me. Or anything with lots of big sort of almonds and stuff. Very into that. But yeah, I tend not to buy chocolate because I eat it. I've still got these left over from Halloween. Not really getting through them, I have to say. I do have some standards, but
it's yeah, I think I always tell people that when you start buying really good chocolate, you don't need to eat as much of it, but that theory completely flies out the window when it's got nuts, like especially caramelized nuts in it. Like it's like, oh yeah, whoops, that was 200-gram bar.
Yeah, I think that's why I like it so much. You can just eat too much of it. So yeah, I should stop buying it.
From a commercial point of view, it's really bad business making really flavorful dark 70% bars because you don't eat that much of it. So one of the things when we did a milk with hazelnuts inside, we did the white chocolate with yuzu. They just like goes in like that and then disappears. So it's a money maker.
Revealing all your secrets. It's so true though. There's like milk with hazelnuts. Like you can easily eat that just through one single episode of a Netflix program. Whereas the dark, you like, you have 2, 3, 4 lines of it, maybe lines. That's probably not right.
I'm negotiating with a 5-star hotel in Copenhagen right now for the mini bars, and they're like, "We definitely want your milk chocolate with hazelnuts." I'm saying, "I'm sure you do."
Yeah, that would be brilliant in a minibar for their hotel, not so much for the people who have to like stare at it and go, no, I will not spend like £10 hotel prices.
It'll be one of the small bars, but with the hotel price up, it will still be.
Yeah, hotel prices will make it £10, I'm sure, especially in Denmark, right? Everything's even more expensive. Have you ever had any disasters in the factory or just from a business perspective?
Some really bad ones, of course. I would say our organic dark Opio is 68%. And that's because the first time I made it for a customer with a 1-star Michelin. He used to have in Copenhagen, really nice guy, Christian Polisi, half Norwegian, half Italian, but grew up in Denmark and has the most beautiful restaurant right smack in the center. And he said, Mikkel, I want real sustainability, not just fair trade, and it has to be organic because we have a certification for that in Denmark, also for restaurants. And so I developed the first organic certified chocolate for him. And I said, I'll make a 7% dark for you. Yeah, it's cool. And then when I calculated the sugar, it was very late Friday night, and I put too much sugar in. So I caught it before I actually at the end, I was like, there's something wrong with my calculation. That was the day after. So it was a 68. And I was like, I'm very sorry, Chris. And it's only a 68. I said, oh, who cares? I mean, it's dark chocolate. I'll cook with it. 68, 70. It works. It's beautiful. I love it. I'll take it. The next one, I'll make 70. But I like the chocolate. So I sent it in for the International Chocolate Awards, and it won as the best dark organic chocolate that year. So, and I had made a 70 in the meantime. I had to go back to the 68 because that was the world champion. So that's
a bit like Hershey's and his baby sick.
Yep. Same kind of story. Yep.
I always wondered that with chocolate makers, like, because you do see 73, 74, 64.
Yeah, I think being particularly about your percentage, but it's information, but how you treat your cacao or which cacao you actually uses will have way more influence on the flavor than the actual percentage. So that's pretty much up to the idiosyncrasies of the maker, how they want to present it. I would say from a more commercial point of view, if you make it below 70%, you will sell less, because all the newspapers that will tell you stories, and the food writers, Felicity, will say dark chocolate's very healthy, and then they will have this kind of, it's like a Beatles refrain. It'll be like, and it has to be 70 or above, because that's where healthy starts. So being that 80% of the world's chocolate is bought by women, and women are more aware of healthy things than we men are, as a cliche, normative, but that's how it works also. Is that definitely we will sell more chocolate if it is 70 or above.
Is that an actual stat, that 80% of it's bought by women, chocolate?
I do not have it confirmed, but I got it from a very credible source.
Okay. I can definitely tell you that it's not 80% eaten by women, which just shows that the mental load goes to women because we do the shopping.
Well, chocolate shop. But it's you can see it also in how chocolate is marketed. It's either kids or it's for women. If you go high end, it will be very feminine, most of it, in its looks.
Interesting. A question for Felicity. Well, this is controversial. It is to me. Gina's asked, why do croissants taste better in France than in the UK?
Two reasons. I think the main one is because the French know good croissants, so they're a bit fussier about them. Saying that, I did have some real stinkers in France, but in general, the standard is much better. And secondly, because I think a really great croissant is butter flavored. It's not a plain pastry. It has a really distinct butter flavor. And the French understand that, and they use better butter for it, and so their croissants are more expensive, but they're just nicer. So yeah, I think mainly just because there's a more discerning audience and they make more of it, and etc. It's their tradition. But you can still, there's so many great small producers in the UK now. I'm always astounded going to somewhere, in the middle of nowhere in the Outer Hebrides, and you can get someone said, there's great croissant here. And it's not like, oh, this is good for South US. This is genuinely a really great croissant. So I think we're catching up. We just need to stop buying those croissants in bags at supermarkets that are not good.
I thought that I didn't like croissants because the only versions I'd tried were the supermarket ones growing up. They were just so horrible. And then I had the real ones like, damn, this is not good information because not to butter.
Yeah.
In Denmark, we teach the bakers to use margarine because it'll make a more beautiful croissant, which is total bullshit. It's just about bad craftsmanship. But if I had a bakery 15, 18 years ago, before my chocolate thing, after my restaurant days as a chef, I actually had the ambition to run a bakery, and I imported a couple of French bakers, and we made the first really good croissant in Copenhagen. And back then they were really, really shitty. But we needed French people to do it. Now it's the Copenhagen bakery scene has gone totally crazy. All the Michelin chefs are opening bakeries, and there is actually, they will all do these perfect sourdough breads, and the croissants will also be sourdough based, and they will be very beautiful. But they're actually gone a little bit away from, I would say they have meandered away from what I would say what a French staple croissant to almost, they're more crisp, they will be more layered, and they will be harder, baked a little bit harder, like the sourdough bread. And recently it's been a little bit of a backlash, like people are like, hey, I don't want my croissant too dark. I actually want it to have a more of a balance. But it's kind of fun to experience that. Suddenly it's gone super upmarket, and you can go to 7-Eleven and get a cheap croissant, or you can go to these high-end bakeries and spend, what would that be, 4 quid for a croissant and get a treat.
Wow,
So-
even Schlengi's croissants aren't quite 4 quid. I think they're
Yeah.
about 3.
You know, some of Pophams, I think, might be about £4.
It's good for me with the bakeries because I've developed a croissant stick for the pain au chocolat now, which I for the professionals, because they were like, "Oh, we can't be bothered. We want to use your chocolate, but we want the croissant stick that we can get from the Mohain." So I made a croissant stick now for professionals that we do sell quite a lot of, actually.
I bet you must supply most of the good ones then. Do you have a favorite bakery? Sarah's asked the same question in Copenhagen.
Oh, that would be more like this guy has the best bread. That would be Christian. He has a bakery called Mirabelle. I love his sourdough bread. I think the best the best cakes or more Danish pastry stuff is a bakery called Yuzu, which is beautiful. The best we have a traditionally every February we will have a bun filled with cream and stuff for
Semla?
Sorry?
Is that like the semla?
No, the semla is a Swedish tradition. Well, you will get that at uni because the owner is Swedish also. And then there is my good friends at Rhodes, and they make I think they make the best croissant for me anyway. So that's there's some beautiful stuff, and there's Noma. They have Heart Bakery, and then I'll start to supply them also now. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I'm like so keen. I think aside from like San Francisco and New York, like the bakery scene and next best, London's great too, but it's Copenhagen.
So he went to Copenhagen and is now working together with Noma with an opening bakeries. So we got him now.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of people have come from San Francisco or I want to visit Copenhagen. Any more questions, anyone? What's your favorite chocolate, Mikkel?
My favorite chocolate, not my own.
Oh, I know one of your own is fine.
It's usually a secret, but I have really a big affinity for the Nicoliso, not because it's the most out there chocolate, but because for me it's the one that's the most harmonious. Where it's mild, it's flavorful, and then it just intensifies to this red wine acidity at the back, and just the aftertaste is millennial. So yeah, that's my favorite, I think.
That was the one on the very first chocolate that we had with the cinnamon leaf. If anyone has some left and wants to go back and retaste and compare your notes to what you taste the second time round. I will, we're 9:30, so I could stay here for a lot longer and talk to you, but I want to respect everybody's time. Not that I have so far, but now I'm going to start. Thank you so much for sticking with us till the end. And thank you so much to Felicity and Mikkel for fascinating conversation and incredible chocolates. This was a lot of fun. So I hope I will see some or all of you again in December, January and February. If you have any questions, feel free to email me and I will try and find the answers. I'll follow up tomorrow with the list of the chocolates, and the recording will be at youtube.com/chocolate tours in the next day or so, if you wanted to refresh your memory of any of them. No last questions?
That's cool. The next big flavor, I have no idea. If I knew, I would make it. Have you got one in the pipeline to make? Well, we do make a very beautiful cherry. You know, like the one you told me about with the whole cherry inside and a fondant. We make that with our yogurt chocolate, and for me, it's out of this world. So I think that's one of our best pieces yet.
Okay, can you save some for me for the next time I see you? I think I might have orders from other people too. Okay, that sounds amazing. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely evening. Happy chocolate eating. Join the Facebook group if you want to share your chocolate discoveries and with other people who are obsessed with chocolate like me, or just me. I'm happy to listen. Good night. See you next time. Thanks. Bye.